We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. In this live stream, what I want to do is spend a little bit of time answering some questions, some common questions, and then take as much time as possible to answer your questions if you have any, and hopefully you do. If you're watching live, please give this video a thumbs up as you come onto the live stream and make sure that you ask questions in the chat as we get into this so that myself and everyone else in the chat stream can chat about the thing that you have a question about, and hopefully we can answer your questions. What I'm going to do is have some kind of generic, not specifically questions, but generic talking points that we can use as maybe jumping off points, and really with the hope of answering some of your questions. I do want to say hi to everyone who's tuning in live. Thanks so much for being here. I know most of you who I see already, you show up every week, and that's a real blessing for me, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you for that. And as we jump in again, make yourself at home, whatever that means. Put your feet up on the coffee table and grab a cup of coffee or whatever else you prefer. And we will get into this as I sip a little bit of water. And we will get going. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to post this first question on the screen, and I'll use this as a talking point. If you do have a question, please put a few question marks, maybe 4 question marks before your question so I can spot it easy. I'm going to try to keep my eye on the chat feed tonight. Some nights I don't get into the chat too much, but tonight I want to really pay attention, and hopefully you can stump me with a few questions. That's the main goal, or if not stump me, because I have all of this source of information here with all of you to help me out, so I don't have to look like a complete fool. And yes, water. I am absolutely sure it's either that or coffee for me. So it's about all I go to. But I'm a little dry tonight. All right, let's jump into this first one. This is the first. I don't know if it's a question, but you can think of it like a question. All right, here it is. What is the primary function and purpose of the kitchen? The reason I want to answer some of these questions is because I get a lot of questions on my channel and on different videos about all kinds of different things. Maybe whatever the topic of the video is, normally there'll be a question about it or some concern or something I said wrong or whatever. And I just want to I like taking this opportunity just to kind of generally answer things or talk about things in a way that I can't on a regular video because they're edited, and it's kind of not that easy. It should be easier, but it isn't. I spent a ton of time editing videos, but for these, I can just sit here and talk and fumble over my words and say things wrong. It's not a big deal. You're also so forgiving. And before I forget, there is a poll running here, which is what quality of appliances do you use? Higher end professional, standard quality but not cheap, and then least expensive gets the job done. So you can figure out where you're at in that range of options, and just interesting to see where the majority falls. And let's just jump back into this. All right, so what is the primary function of and purpose of the kitchen? So this is kind of an interesting question. This is not something that I would ask you, or maybe someone would even ask me, but it's for us to be able to talk about when you're designing and planning out a kitchen renovation. What is the primary function of the space that you're renovating? Yes, it's a kitchen, and yes, it cooks food, but how do you use that space? And these are really good questions to ask yourself and to kind of assess how you use your kitchen and how you envision yourself using the kitchen in the future, or how your life is going to change, and maybe what if there's going to be differences. Maybe you're going to have children coming into the home or children leaving the home, or you're single and you're not going to be single, or you're not single and you're going to be single. I don't know. But there's probably lots of different scenarios where you might use your kitchen, and the way that you use your kitchen. Are you like having people over and you're socializing, or are you more recluse and you don't want people over? And so your kitchen has to serve different purposes depending on how you envision yourself using it. And so what I want to ask you, and what I ask clients, and what kind of the main question is, what do you think about when you're picturing your future kitchen? And this is an important question to answer, not only for well, yes, for yourself, but just also, when you're talking with interior designers and contractors and kitchen designers, here's what I envision the purpose of my kitchen to be, and this is how I think I'm going to be using my kitchen. And so we want to steer it in that direction. All right, we got a question coming in already from Jody. Hi, Jody Lynn. All right, since you abhor the use of corner cabinets, how do you join the cabinets abutting the dead corner? So this is simply done with usually a 3-inch filler on both sides, and they're just connected on a 90-degree angle. Sorry, there's my camera for a second. They're connected on a 90-degree angle, and they're just joined together. So sometimes that would be an overlapping filler just to create a 90-degree corner, and then on the wall normally there's just a ledge for a countertop to sit on, and then the cabinets and actually usually one of those fillers would attach to the other side of the cabinet that's abutting it to secure it, and then the other cabinet would attach to the other one. Um, just pre-drill the sides, screw it in, and away you go. Um, there's, I have videos on my channel where you can see mine, and I talk about it a little bit, and you can see how it's done. It's actually really, really simple. If someone does not want to use a corner cabinet, that they can block it off. So that's a great question. Corner cabinets are um, a great solution a lot of the times, and sometimes they're not a great solution depending on the scenario. And I do abhor them. I don't take that lightly. I do abhor them, but they can be very useful depending on the scenario. So it's not right for everyone to block their corner off, but it could be the right choice depending on the circumstance. And so that's something you should definitely discuss with your kitchen designer, interior designer, whomever, or just think about it yourself when you're designing your kitchen. But that's how you do it. You just take two fillers, join them 90 degrees, um, and away you go. So once you discover what the primary purpose and function of your kitchen is, then that gives you some direction. Um, oh, okay, okay. Well, yeah, that's how I do it too. Okay, I'm glad that you do it that way as well. I don't know if there's another better way to do it, but that seems to be the easiest. Once you figure out the purpose and of that kitchen, that gives you direction in determining how you want that kitchen to flow, how you want it to, well, basically the layout, how you want to function, where the storage needs to be, where the countertop needs to be situated for prep area and for other things that you're using the countertops for. Are you making a lot of lunches for little kids, little elementary schoolers or middle schoolers like we do? We have in high schoolers, we have our big island, and so that is the main kind of work surface, and that's where all of the lunches and everything gets prepped for the next day. So that's how we use the kitchen. And so when planning out our kitchen, it's we need to have a space for that area, and it needs to be wide open and big enough that we can do everything and everyone can kind of get involved. And so those are the things that question leads you down the road to answer. Hey, Rob, thanks for joining in tonight, buddy. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, 20-minute guitar player is going to be doing live lessons for beginner guitars. You can check it out on his channel. All right. Remember, if you have a question, please do put in a few 4 question marks beforehand to help me see it. If not, I might just think it's a comment about something that's not a question and I could skip over it. So please do that if you do have a question, and we'll go from there. All right. So the next kind of question I guess we can answer is this one, and it is, what is the desired style or aesthetic for the kitchen? I put out a short, and I had it in a video about my stylistic appeal and how that's not really a thing, but it could be, and maybe it's my thing, adding some stylistic appeal to your kitchen. But it is very important that we have not only a functioning kitchen, but we want our kitchen to look good. I mean, I think most of us do, at least. We want our kitchens to look good. And when you look on the internet, you look at pictures of kitchens, you're mostly seeing curated kitchens that have been designed specifically, maybe for that picture. But a lot of those kitchens are also, behind that picture was an interior designer really massaging the space so it looks great, adding elements, and with some purpose for however their mind works in interior design. And I think everyone's a little bit different, but there seems to be this kind of maybe overarching uh, you know, kind of set of, when you look at a bunch of pictures, it's like there's a lot of people like a particular look, and so you kind of see that look a lot, and I think that's where the predominant trends tend to fall into. So whether it's a modern style, or if you talk, you go back to Japandi, or you talk about, a farmhouse, you see a lot of those styles, and they appeal to a wide variety of people. Not everyone, but there is a big group of people who love farmhouse, and there's a big group of people who love maybe modern, sleek or contemporary or transitional, traditional, whatever it is. And so what is the desired aesthetic that you're going for? What is the picture that when you look at a kitchen, you're like, oh, I like what that looks like. I like the look of that. And that's a clue, obviously, of which way you should be going. And so and obviously you're not going to design a kitchen that you don't like the look of, but you sometimes are unsure on how to design those things. And so by looking at some of those pictures helps you get an idea of how to design a kitchen in a way that when you look at pictures, you're like, oh, I like that. That's how I want to feel when I look at my kitchen. And that's kind of the vibe I want to go for. How do I get there? And so that's a great way to do it, is just to understand the kind of kitchen pictures or whatnot that you like looking at and that kind of speak to you, and then using that as kind of maybe a mold in designing your kitchen. That doesn't mean you have to copy or whatever the style. It just gives you clues into what it is that you might like in your future kitchen. That's a lot of words for a simple answer. Is it okay to go dark and moody even in a small space? Um, Not that dark and moody. Okay. Yeah, I think it is okay. Maybe it depends on. I mean, obviously, it depends on the space itself. It depends on, is there any natural light coming into that space? Are there windows, or you know, is it a small space that's attached to another room that's open? So I think it's okay to go dark and moody. I've seen and have designed lots of smaller kitchens that are darker, dark cabinets, and or other elements that are darker, and they can look really, really fabulous. So yeah, I would say yes, and at the same time, is this kind of the style and aesthetic that you like and that you're going for? And then seek out ways to make that look the way that you want it to look. So you want to go with a small kitchen that's maybe dark and moody. Then that's kind of the style you should be looking at, saying, okay, how do I get that from my space? Because I mean, I think it's okay to do that. I mean, maybe you'll speak to someone who's like, no, you don't want to go dark in a small space. But I'm just over, oh, all white and I want dark. Yeah, well, aren't we all over white? I mean, I know I am not. I love white. Are white speaking of white kitchens, hey, Tony, are white kitchens off trend, for all aesthetics? No. I mean, maybe that'll be debated amongst, many different interior designers or kitchen designers or ourselves here in the chat. Personally, I don't think that white kitchens are off trend at all. I don't think they'll ever be off trend, though I do think maybe, I think when you look at white kitchens now, very modern white kitchens, there's a lot of elements that go into making that look really great. And the white cabinetry maybe just serves as a backdrop for all the other elements that can really make it pop and look good. So I don't think it's off trend. I think it's popular to talk about. It's one of those trends that people love to hate. TSMFFF, I really love Art Nouveau, but how to integrate it into 21st century kitchen would be mind-bending. Something that integrates wood beams, yeah, integrates the wood beams into the house. Um, yeah, I'd have to actually do some research on that because I don't really know how to integrate it myself. But something that integrates wood beams. Wood beams are quite simple to integrate into modern kitchens because that's a really popular look, in the last little while, and that can be done quite easily. But let's just see here really quickly. So let me just keep that on there. Keep the questions coming. I love it. And I'm going to look up something here just to um, so I can answer your question better. Because Yeah, so it's I mean, if you wonder what I'm looking up, it's Art Nouveau. You could definitely do it in the form of just artwork, a modern, contemporary kitchen with just that style of artwork, could work. So it's not really anything to do with the actual kitchen design itself, but just the accessories that you use. I think that could be very interesting. That probably doesn't answer or help, but that's my answer anyways. Mike, Mike, what percent of people find the kitchen the most important room to create their mood, vibe, energy generator? That's a good question. Maybe that would be a good poll to put in a live stream one of these days. I would say, a high percentage of people would probably um, would probably say that the kitchen is maybe one of the more important rooms for that. Though, like, the general, like, the living space, sometimes the living space, I don't know if you call it the living room anymore, but that a lot of times that space is connected to the kitchen, and that so that whole area, is generally very important, not just the kitchen, but what the kitchen's attached to and how they integrate with each other and how that looks. Um, but I would say a high percentage would deem the kitchen, a pretty important room, for that. I mean, because usually we do spend quite a lot of time there. I mean, nowadays we are, especially, you know, through the pandemic and even post pandemic, we spend a lot of time in our kitchen. And before that, we spent a lot of time in our kitchen. And I know for us, kids were always there doing homework, getting lunches. It was just a main hub. People were there. You have people over and they gather around in the kitchen, at least from my experience. And because the kitchen's attached to the openness of the house, that whole thing is connected and very important for the overall vibe, I guess, of the place. So hope that answers that question. Keep them coming. I love these, and I'm try if I see a question mark, I'll definitely try to hit it. If I don't, I might skip over you. So, but hey, Jackie's here. I stay away from fads or just adding something because it's trendy. I like something more traditional. Yeah, and you know what? I'm sure, and Jackie would probably agree. If there was a trend that you liked, then you like it. Um, just because it's a trend, that doesn't mean you need to stay away from it. You might actually just like that thing. Uh, Paul, Mark, Jody, I saw a display kitchen recently in a big box store. Base cabinet at corner was blind, but door was wider than typical corner base. Inside had a shelf, was half depth. Cabinet was easy to reach in. Yeah, but if you block it off, it'd still be better. I've seen some that had two doors. I've seen them all. I still not a fan. Paul's like, but come on, give it a chance. Okay, they're never good. Yeah, I do have to agree. I've seen those as well, Paul. I mean, I guess if you have to have a blind corner, um, oh man, I mean, if you have to have one that you can have some kind of pullout in at least, but otherwise try to block it off. MySpace, what? What are you talking about? Phil, did you have MySpace? I had it. All right. All right, all right, all right. Let's keep going. Oh, lots of great comments coming in. Here's a good one. Um, Safe Pet Haven. Just because I am blind doesn't mean I cannot use a blind kitchen corner. I know because I've lived with a two-tier huge three-quarter tray since 91. Never once lost anything at the back of the turntables. That is good news. That is really good news. Yeah, well, as long as they have some kind of, back on them, that's always good. Awesome. All right, here we go. Here's another question, and I'll jump into the next thing. If you Google Art Nouveau architecture, it will make you giggle. I love it though. Okay, I'm gonna do that right now. Let's Google it, Art Nouveau architecture, and then we'll jump on to the next question. If it's interest, oh yeah. Oh, it's just like looks like castles and stuff. You can all do that. Oh wow, yeah. So definitely, I don't know how you'd integrate that into kitchens. Look up Art Nouveau architecture, everyone. It's interesting. All right. Helen's got a point. Important to also design a kitchen that suits your property. It's a family home that needs to suit a large family. It's rural and consider that too. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I do have to consider all of those things to make sure the kitchen functions exactly how you want it. More questions coming in. Have you done porcelain countertop installations? I have not personally. How does material compare to granite or quartz? So I have not personally done them because in my area, just not widely available. However, I've had clients who've installed them and have had them quite recently, and so they have quite a good experience. They've had a good experience so far with them. The installation is generally a little more challenging because most fabricators aren't, as used to dealing with a porcelain large scale slab as they are a piece of quartz or granite. However, in comparison to granite or quartz, here's what I would say. You know, Scratch resistance, heat resistance, I mean, heat proof, not even resistant, heat proof, stain proof, um, not super budget friendly. Porcelain is your probably your go-to. Never have to do anything to it, no maintenance or anything like that. Quartz, good all around, solid material, can stain and can have some problems with excessive heat, but generally has a great warranty, is repairable to a certain extent, and wide variety of colors, and difficult to break in comparison to probably porcelain if you had an impact hard enough. Granite, probably I would say my favorite would probably be granite. One, it's just out of the ground. Doesn't get any more better than that, I think. You polish it up, it's great. Some granite's better than others, obviously. It's very, very heat resistant, mostly scratch resistant, most cases. Depending on how dense it is, it can be very resistant to stains. Otherwise, having it sealed is a good option. So, I do love porcelain, and I mean, obviously, I like all of these to some degree or another. And I would say porcelain or granite would be maybe my first two choices. Um, and not so much quartz. So yeah. We spend a third of our life in bed. So get yourself a good mattress. I don't think interior design in the bedroom's that important because the lights are off and your eyes are closed. So anyway, I'm on the fence about installing a pot filler in my modern stove cove. Is this useful feature? Can we make this a poll? Yeah, this could be a poll maybe in the future for sure. And maybe we did have it as a poll at one point. Um, You know, there's a mixed review about pot fillers, on this channel from people, and like, I would say, yeah, it's useful. I mean, if it's there and you use it and then it's useful. Some people say, "Well, you gotta carry water back to the sink to dump it regardless," and, maybe it's heavy. I don't know. I think this is one for me that if I was putting in a big kitchen and it wasn't a big expense or that much extra to put in and work-wise, whatever, to put in a pot filler, I'd probably put one in, and I'd probably use it. It'd probably be great. So, um, you know, I don't think it's as big a deal as we kinda make it out to be. I've probably said the opposite before, but that's my stance tonight. Stay with me, that could change. What do you think about replacing pantry with wall storage cabinet? Like floor to ceiling, shallow depth, really great idea. Um, Depending on what's in that pantry now that where's that all gonna go? So if it's a standard, whatever regular cabinet pantry, all that stuff has to go somewhere. Likely, if you're like common most people, a lot of the stuff in that pantry has been there forever, and you could probably get rid of a lot of stuff and kind of streamline how that looks and how it's used storage wise. I mean, and so I'm okay with replacing it with wall storage, but my question would be to make sure that you have enough storage once you do that to facilitate what you need. But I don't think there's a problem with it. I do like floor to ceiling shallow wall storage, if that makes sense. I mean, I guess that's sort of like a pantry. It's kind of the best of both worlds because everything's just so accessible. But I'm not against that. Again, it depends on if you don't need all that pantry space, then maybe you don't, you get away with what you're saying. So I think that could be very beneficial. All right. I see what's going on. All right. Okay, let's keep going. We got lots of stuff happening. I think it's a question. Make sure if you're asking a question, put some question marks before it, just so I don't miss it because I might miss it. Any tips or ideas for under cabinet lighting? Would you happen to have a video on this topic? I actually don't have a dedicated video on under cabinet lighting. I should by now. Been doing this long enough. I should have a video on that, but I don't think I do. Um, uh, any tips? Um, There's so many options out there. I was recently looking at IKEA, at all their options, and it looked very overwhelming and just a lot of parts. So, simpler the better. You can get great quality under cabinet lighting at Lowe's, Home Depot, any big box store that sells them. Generally, the LED strips I like. I'm not a fan of the stick-on ones that just stick there. They're going to fall off. So make sure something that actually attaches. And if you can have it so that it's hardwired into the electrical system of your house, so you just flick a switch on the wall outlet, switch, that would be better. So if you're renovating a kitchen, you can and you obviously do this probably a little easier than if you're just buying something and attaching it. But worst case scenario, yeah, they just have a cord that can tuck away neatly so that you can just turn it on and off at the specific points that you need it. But I like, and which might be fine if you just need one place where you need task lighting. You don't want all of them to come on at all times, and that might work for you perfectly. But generally, I like to have them on a switch, and usually on a dimmer switch if I can. So, but in terms of puck lights or strip lights or the tube lights. I do like the LEDs, the long strips, but as long as they can be attached without sticking them there, that's never good. But yeah, check around, Jason, at some different, just big box hardware stores. They have usually have pretty good, great products there, and usually they all have warranties. So, but if anyone else has experience with that, please pipe in and see if we can maybe have better ideas. Nothing against IKEA and their lights. It just seems to be a lot of components, um, and it seemed confusing. So cool. Trisha's not a fan of the pot fillers because once you have a big pot full, but no place to dump it. And that's true. But my only question there then is if I filled the big pot and brought it over to the stove, I still have a big pot filled. And I still have to dump it. So I don't think the pot filler, wherever I fill the pot, I have to dump it. So if it's at the point of the stove or it's at the point of the sink, I still have to move that pot somewhere. And then I see, yeah, I would put in a small prep sink. So to remedy your other comment, like you just said, yeah, go with a small sink somewhere, maybe close by. The, that is something with the pot fillers. Yeah, you do have to move that around somewhere, but you have to regardless, I think. So. All right. I'd like to have a long kitchen island, but but even extra long slabs are, oh, sorry, the rest, your question you got truncated there somehow. So like, are they available? Is that what you mean? Or you might have to re-ask that one. Oh, here we go. All right. I'd like to install a long kitchen island, but the longest slabs I've been able to find are 10. Getting to 12 requires splicing. Can splicing be done well, or should I stay at 10? That's a tricky one. Yeah, you can get slightly larger than 10 in jumbo slabs, but you definitely are not going to find a 12-foot slab. That I've never seen one. Um, You're gonna have to join that thing. It can be done well, but depending on the pattern, then that might, you know, that might mess things up. So, a couple ways to do this. One, just find a pattern that's, bland. I don't mean bland as in boring, but just not without veins and lots of things to it, so that when that is seamed, it's not as noticeable. And depending on the fabricator, it can be done quite well. Or in the case of some well, in almost any circumstance, any stone, porcelain, granite, quartz, you can get match cuts. So one, like, they like they do with plywood. I mean, they just match the two slabs, so you have one pattern and it flows into the next pattern. And that can look nice as well, if you do that. So that would be one way to do it if you want to go with a longer slab. So I don't think you necessarily have to stay at 10. Just be very cognizant of the word of the day there, of the pattern, and then I would probably want to see what seams look like in that pattern, and I'd want to see work from the fabricators on their seam work, because you want to have someone who's really good at it. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Oh, hey, Jack. It's not intimidating at all. It's very user friendly to set up. Just need good location for outlet. Oh, that's good to know. So, I mean, I looked at it on the wall in there at IKEA, and it's just all these parts. And I was like, what in the world do you do with all these? But Jack's saying it's not that intimidating, so that's good. I like that. So that if you're going to go for lighting, you can go to IKEA, and it's not that bad. So check them out too when you're looking at lighting. Thanks, Jack, for that. Phil has a question about my space. What's the deal with paneling appliances? Does camouflaging the fridge make people feel cool? I don't like playing hide and seek with relatives' kitchens when all I want is a Fanta. Well, it's just a thing. It just looks high end, right? Isn't it? That's the only reason, because it look. Okay, so here's the thing with it depends on where you're from. If you talk to Michael Kitchensider in the UK, they they don't, and if you're from the UK, maybe you can correct me, say, "Yeah, this is right," or if you're from maybe somewhere else, Helen, you're in Australia, and others are from wherever you're from. I know for Michael, he'd say, like, to see an appliance, like a stainless steel dishwasher, it just looks horrible, and so putting a panel on it is the thing to do. Um so I think for us North Americans, it's like, why are we doing that? We're so used to seeing the appliances that why would we want to cover them up? But depending on where at in the world, that they might have a different opinion on that. And yeah, I would. I mean, it is kind of funny when you. I mean, I'll use IKEA again because obviously they're a European brand, originally and still are. When you go into some of their showrooms and you open a cabinet, it's like you go to slide it open, but it's a dishwasher. And you're like, oh, okay, that was totally camouflaged, and I didn't even know that was that. So I get what you're saying, Phil. You want a Fanta. You don't want to be, opening every door in the kitchen to get at that thing. You just want to find the fridge, get it, and be on your way. I hear you, brother. But you know, I think they're going to be more and more popular as you go, as we go along in time here. Helen, Helen, my favorite Australian. And if someone else is from Australia, I'm sorry, I don't know. But right now, Helen's my favorite Australian. I have two large Bloom space towers as my pantries. They work beautifully. What is a Bloom space tower? That sounds lovely. I have to check out those. Book match. Thank you. What did I say? I don't know. Yeah. So when you're seaming two countertops, it's called a book match. Thank you. All right. All right. I got lots of stuff. I'm just sifting through. All right. I'm going to go back to what I was talking about. Keep the questions coming. I'd rather talk about your stuff than my stuff, because my can probably be a little bit boring. All right, here's the next one. So yeah, figure out your aesthetic. Big question people have: what's the budget for the kitchen project? This is not something that should be overlooked. You definitely want to have this figured out to pretty certain point. In other words, you're never. I don't think you'd ever get it exactly, so that there's no room for error, maybe. But get an idea of what the budget is for the project, so that you can then pick all the elements and not be disappointed when you can't afford them because you see all these things. What happens is we look at, all of these different things, the different showrooms, different ideas, different stuff. We understand that they cost money, but for most of us, money is just not endless, and there has to be some way that we can we can we can pull it all together. Um, yeah, it's an awful word. Maybe there's a better word for budget. If someone get a thesaurus, help me out. Um, my camera didn't even like it; it turned off on me. So this is a good way for us to not get in over our heads, but still get the things that we want. I'm convinced that you can get, whatever your layout is, you can get it for the budget that you want. A lot of what we pay for is, maybe the door style, the color, the particular door type, whether it's a one piece, a five piece, a polyester wrapped, you name it, a reverse raised panel, this or that, the other thing, whether it's oak or walnut or tiger maple or whatever, or MDF. I mean, you're that's where a lot of the pricing comes into play. But the actual layout in the space itself, you can have that designed to be very, very functional, at a variety of price points. And so it doesn't have to be something that, you can't get the kitchen that you really want because you just can't afford it. No, just budget in, get a layout that you love. Okay. Get a layout that you love, and then work from there. Here's the layout that I want, and then here's my budget. How do we go from there? Hey, Mike, he's saying labor. Yeah, so definitely something to consider in budget, and whether or not you're going to do the labor yourself or you're going to hire someone to do that. Make sure that they understand that. Sanjeev, my man, ask the customer how much they want to invest. There you go. That I think is the right way to think about this. Yeah. Thank you, Sanjeev. This is excellent. Um, your kitchen is an investment, and you're likely investing a lot of your money and your time, a lot of your resources, a lot of your emotions, into this project. That's a very good question. Um, so not only what is the budget, but what is the investment that they want to make? Because sometimes that would mean that they would spend, maybe they spend more on this space, on their MySpace, because they want to make sure that it is going to last them a lifetime. So where this would come into play would be, they have that layout, they have it, it looks good, it's going to function for them, but maybe a particular door style or paint finish or countertop choice, whatever the selection might be, could be of better quality than something else, and it might be better off to invest now, and pay more and spend more budget dollars, or go over the budget maybe, at the beginning, to make sure that you get a longer lifetime out of it, instead of replacing something maybe over and over and over again, or having something that's less quality. So that's a great point there. So yeah, figure out what the investment is, and yeah, when it comes to labor, make sure that you plan that as well, when you're talking about budget, and trying to figure out all the dirty work. Oh my! I asked a customer about his budget, and he got angry. I lost the job. Yeah, it's such a tricky one, because I think maybe, and Sanjiv, and I know others here who are in the business of this. When you ask someone what their budget, they just maybe automatically assume that you just want all of it. I'm going to make sure I get all of that money. So what is it? What's the number? Um, because I would get people very hesitant sometimes. I'd be like, "Well, what's your budget for this?" And be like, "Oh, I don't want to tell you that. I can't tell you that because you're just gonna, you're gonna come after me and try to take me." I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I just don't want to spend all my time designing you a kitchen that when you see the price, you'd be like, "Oh, I can't afford that." I'm like, well, that's why I asked you what your budget was, so that we can work together to come up with a kitchen that you can afford. And anyway, it's too bad you lost the job, but some jobs are worth losing. I purposefully lost some jobs over the years. There you go. That job, you only lost a PETA customer. Yeah. I mean, I not I mean, I'm only a young lad, I'm only a youngin', but I've been in the business long enough to spot them when they come in and be like, "No, you're getting a special price." It's not worth, it's not worth it. Not worth my sanity to deal with you. So you're getting a high price. What do you think about replacing an island with a tabletop with the same countertop surface? What do you think about replacing an island with a tabletop with the same countertop surface? You mean replacing the tabletop with the same as the countertop surface, or the island is the same as the? I mean, I don't, not sure on that one. I think, I don't know. I think this is what you're saying. If you have an island and a tabletop, I just froze. I don't know why. If you have an island and a tabletop, then it might be nice to have one that's different. But I don't know if that's a rule or not. Why did I freeze? Did I freeze for real? I just had to refresh. All right. I was frozen there. I had to refresh my screen. Hopefully none of you all right, cool. I'm on, not frozen. All right, thanks. Okay. Mikey's asking, how do you feel about stainless steel countertops? I like them. Um, but they're a particular look. And I mean, they're very good in terms of, quality and food prep and all that stuff, sanitary, but they're a specific look. Normally they have to be fabricated, uh, in a special shop, which maybe can be challenging for some, to find or have done right. It can look maybe more commercial, industrial. So I think in part of a kitchen as something that is, maybe a feature, or, on an island or something, it can look kind of cool, but not for everything, I don't think. But in terms of just what they are, I think they're great. We definitely don't see enough of them. So, okay. I mean, a regular table have the same countertop surface. No, I don't think so. I think make your table your table. Yeah. Do you agree? That's just my opinion. I think you have your island, you have your kitchen. They're probably all the same top. Then to have it also on your table, I don't know. I would say like have your table something different as a separate piece. That's just my take on it. Mike, I think if a contractor can't throw out a fairly tight range, appliances aside, after seeing the kitchen and asking a bunch of questions, then don't use them. I can ID a cost with a few measures. You mean for labor cost or budget of a kitchen? I think if you're in the business long enough, you can probably get it pretty close. Um, but yeah. All right, from Facebook, Jennifer. I've found clients that won't tell you their budget is a red flag that they'll end up taking all of your time and still not being happy. They're in the same category as the "I'll know it when I see it" clients. Yeah, I do agree. And listen, if you are out there and you're dealing with a kitchen designer or a professional in the industry, um, and we're asking you about budget, it hopefully most of the time we're not trying to rip you off. But it is a red flag. I agree. I agree with that one. I used to tell my guys sometimes the best sale, you made is the one you never got. I you know, I agree with you there on that one too. Yeah, yeah. But, it's a learning experience, and difficult clients, it's okay. They're just coming from whatever they're coming from. Um, they're just coming from, their own past, own history, and that can be fine. Sometimes it's a challenge to work with, but it can also be rewarding in a sense, depending on the client. Now, sometimes you're just going to hit those that are just you're just butting heads all the time. It's never good. But I do want to be fair. I've had difficult clients in the past that I thought, oh, this is going to be brutal, and over just some time and some once we got to know each other a little better, it turned out to be a lot better. So if you are on the receiving end of that kind of conversation, it can be a little challenging at first. Sometimes those relationships end up working out pretty good, and you can really get a valuable customer. Sometimes you can't, and that's just the business with anything when you're dealing with people. That's the way it's going to be. But Mark, can you comment on the recent Instagram trend of hidden rooms, especially in the kitchen, fad or fab? I don't know. I mean, I I don't know. It's cool. I don't hate it. Um, so fad or fab? Probably probably more a fad than something that's gonna really last. It's a very specific circumstance that you need a hidden room like that, or you'd have a hidden room like that. So, I mean, I don't hate it, but it wouldn't come up a lot, I don't think, in maybe a regular design situation. It probably would not come up very much in just a renovation project in your kitchen. It would have to be really planned ahead and built, if you're doing a new construction, built with that purpose. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's maybe it's a little cheeky, but I mean, it's kinda cool too. I don't know, someone else can pipe up on that one. Because the table's at the kitchen, but I have a dining room that's separate. Yeah, I'd still go with a separate one. That's just my opinion, though. I mean, that's just what I think about that one. I mean, if someone else wants to maybe give their opinion on that, having a table with the same top as the island, and I'm assuming the rest of the kitchen, um, and even though you do have a separate dining room table, maybe that might look great. I just think it should be different, but, you know, that's a real my opinion, so this is what I'm thinking about. How much will it cost to make it happen? Is that, like, the customer saying that to the client? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Well, if someone came in to me and said, "This one thing about how much will it cost to make it happen," then I could tell them. I would say, "Well, what's your budget, sir?" So I can take it all. Alright, alright. I seen a question about a workstation sink, and I think I skipped over it. Let me just go back to see if I can find it real quick. Da, 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 da. Oh, here it is. Mark, have you ever installed a longer workstation sink with sliding cutting boards, colanders, etc.? Are these useful or just trendy? I haven't personally installed them because when I got out of the physical business of this, now I should say this: I do have a few clients right now that are putting those in, and so yes, yes, and no. When I was working in a physical location, actually selling cabinets, no, because workstation sinks were not very popular. Even 7 years ago, whenever it was that I was actually in a physical location. But, so I haven't personally done it. However, I do think they're very useful, and I know some of us who are watching, some of the viewers have them and absolutely love them. Some people have said that all the trinkets that come with them are not that useful because they gotta be stored somewhere, but from a lot of people who have used them, they say they're very good. I have a couple clients right now who are putting them in, extra long. One they're actually doing in an IKEA kitchen, so they have to completely modify 2 cabinets in order to fit something like that in, so they're even doing it with that. So I I don't just think they're trendy, I think they can be quite useful. So yeah, well, I guess we'll see. Time will tell how much of a sticking factor they have, but I think they're good. All right, let me scroll back down. I love this. You guys are doing just great, making my night with all these questions. I don't have to go through my material. All right. Da, 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 da. There you go. Okay, back to what Phil was saying, and then Helen's piping up saying panel appliances are very popular in Australia. So there you go, right? They can find their Fanta or their Vegemite easily. All right, all right, all right. Oh, interesting. But the unfinished appliances are twice the price. Isn't that interesting? I wouldn't have thought that. All right, Mike, name two things your fantasy kitchen would have. Mine is a 60-inch stove and a fireplace. Mine would have an instant coffee maker, like an instant hot water tap. It would just be instant black Colombian medium roast coffee on tap. Just bloop, there you go. And it would also have probably an instant um, A&W like chicken wing dispenser. There, that's my answer. Your comment your comments you post as well are as questions are very fuzzy. I don't know, maybe it's a connection issue. Hopefully, why does that happen, you know? I don't know. All right, Jackie. I have one in my bar sink basement. It's not super long, but I love cutting board insert. It's cool. Yeah, it works. Daniel, hey, upper cabinets with vaulted ceilings. How do you not make them look weird? Depends on the height before the vault. So if it's an 8-foot ceiling and then it goes to a vault as opposed to a 9 or 10-foot ceiling, that can be challenging. I personally think just a very simple, square 1 inch, maybe with a little bit of reveal out of the front over the door, just a square like scribe molding on top. So I think having crown molding is maybe just a dated look that definitely probably doesn't look that great with vaulted ceilings. This is my personal opinion. I think that if you want it to look less weird than just a simple like scribe molding, like I said, 1 inch in height and just a bit of a reveal, maybe over the door or around the door, could make it look good. And that's definitely where, looking online and seeing what catches your eye in vaulted ceiling kitchens to get an idea of what you like, because there you can put crown molding, you could put a soffit panel with crown, you could do nothing, you could, put you know pots on the top of it. There's so many things you could do, but what kind of catches your eye? That's what I like, and what I would probably do. I hope that helps. Thanks for the question. Da 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 da. You have material? I don't have material. All right, heating drawer or microwave. I had a comment. This is sort of to do with this. I had a comment on my last video because I had lots of comments on my last video about my experiment being outside and not being a real experiment. I'm like, I know that. I know it wasn't a very good experiment. I'm just having fun. Anyways, well, somebody had commented that using an induction stove range, they heat their food so quickly, reheat their food so quickly that they didn't need a microwave. So I'm saying probably a heating drawer would be pretty valuable, but most people are going to say microwave. I mean, most people just put in a microwave, heat your food, bingo bango, you're done. But the comment about the induction top in reheating food was an interesting one. All right. Oh, one of the two things Jackie would want are a coffee maker and a hidden big screen television. Fantasy item. Inset cabinet doors. Ooh, yes, that's nice. I could go for that. I could definitely go for that. Hidden big screen, so go big or go home. Here's one. I suggest a task filler 3 by 96. Turn on its side to top off the cabinets and cathedral ceiling space. Okay, cool. What's the thickness of the was the thickness of that? 3/4 of an inch or what is that? Yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. Tall filler. So 3/4 inch filler on its side. Yeah, that would work. So probably 3/4 of an inch thick, or even 5/8. What you saying? Removing all upper cabinets have a minimalist look. I say Helen would agree that that is a great choice, and I agree if you don't need those cabinets for anything else. But don't take them all out if you're like, oh, now what do I do with all my stuff? So it can be great, but maybe not the best idea for everyone. Yeah, hit the like button, please, and thank you. What does it do? I'm not sure. Apparently, it does something to the algorithm. 3/4 inch. Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, Michael Blair Mercer, my buddy, my friend, in my kitchen, speakers for music and a commercial dishwasher. Speakers for music, that's a good one. I have my fridge for that. Oh, I have a warming drawer that will be below my gas cooktop with an OTR above it. Jackie knows. Have you voted on the poll yet? Make sure you do before you leave. Yes, my fridge has speakers and a screen, and I play my YouTube videos on it on repeat. Got to get those views, baby. My fridge gets all the views for me, brings in all that ad revenue. I don't know what to tell you, Jackie. Make sure you vote on the poll. So, what kind of quality appliances do you have? Higher end professional. So far, we're 12%. Standard quality, but not cheap. So, kind of, I mean, I guess I'd say run of the mill. I don't know if I like that term, but that's 79% right now. And least expensive, just whatever gets the job done. That'll do. So, all those are great options. But which one is it that you have? Make sure you let me know in the post. I'd love to hear about it. Um, is there a way to have the illusion of floor to ceiling cabinets on a sloped ceiling? Depends on the slope. I mean, um, you could probably fandangle some way of doing that, but depends on the slope of the ceiling. So if it's a very, shallow is not the right word, but if the angle is not too crazy, you could probably use soffit panel, maybe a molding to finish. Um, However, it depends on, if the slope is too high, then no, it probably wouldn't look that good. But if you had a very, small slope, then maybe. Let me just jump onto one of my questions again. That was the budget one. Let's just do another one here. I've got 10 of these, and no way I'm getting to all these. Maybe we'll just do some next week. What are the specific storage needs and organizational requirements? Let's talk about that. You got questions about storage, about organization. What are the needs that you have? So one of the questions we just had was, what about getting rid of all the wall cabinets for that minimalistic look, which I think is great, and I like the look of that. But do you have specific storage needs and organizational requirements that would be better suited if you had wall cabinets? That's a really important question to answer. So before you get hung up on, not that you're hung up on it, but before someone gets hung up on a particular design style or some element in a kitchen that they really like the look of, make sure that you figure out what you need in terms of the requirements that you actually have. I tell clients all the time, and some actually do this, they'll actually listen, is, hey, catalog out and write out all the things that you need to store. You've got small appliances galore, probably. You have bags of things that you buy in bulk, maybe. You have, all this stuff that you need to put somewhere and make sure that you have a place in your kitchen to do that. So Really, really, this is an important question to answer. And what I've seen in the past is we get, squirrel. We see the kitchen, it looks beautiful. We want that, or we like that particular style, but then we find out that it doesn't really suit. Where am I going to put my KitchenAid? I didn't think about that. Like once you move into the kitchen, that's not the time to think about your KitchenAid. That should have been way back here in this stage, saying, do you have anything that I need to know about? That we have to allow for in this kitchen. Now's the time to talk about that. So, um, all right. So just make sure you do that. All right. Let's go back here. Jackie, can you kick Mark out even though it's his channel? Asking just for general knowledge. um, yeah, I don't think she can. She could try. Jackie wouldn't want to kick me out. Mark, where do you typically hide your electrical outlets on your island? Have you ever installed pop-up outlets on the countertops? Um, okay, second part of that question, no, I haven't because it's against the electrical code in the province that I live in. So we're not allowed to put pop-ups in countertops. So I haven't done that. Um, though I do think that it's a pretty interesting idea. My question is, how sturdy are they? So they pop up, you got to plug it in, you got to bend the thing over, is it going to break off? And then what if stuff goes down in there? So I'm not sure about that. Maybe that's why we're not allowed to have them. First part of the question: do you typically hide your electrical outlets, or how do you, or where do you? I I do it a few different ways. One, I don't typically hide them per se. I just install them in the side of either the back of the base cabinet where there is space, or in what's called a box filler. So it's a filler that's normally 3 or 4 inches wide. That's just a box that has room inside of it. Sometimes I've done it on the front of those. Again, not hidden, but just installed there, kind of in plain view. And that's a place. Sometimes I put them in underneath the back of an overhang, but that's not a great place for them because it's very inaccessible. But as an extra outlet, just for something, that's a good spot. In a drawer now is a great place for them, though it's not as accessible because you got to open the drawer. And in a flip down drawer front, where it's just a false front that flips down on a hinge, and then there's an electrical outlet. My favorite though is just in the side or the front of a filler, in the side of the cabinet. I think that's a pretty good spot. But I have seen other creative ways as well online, which I think are interesting. But that's how I typically do it, and I don't have a real issue with it. I don't have an issue with it being not hidden. Um, so if you're trying to hide them, then I guess putting them behind a false front that flips down is a good spot for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is I love this conversation because it's generated by all of you. So I do appreciate that. Give the video a thumbs up. Is it okay that I ask that? Mark and Mike. I have Google Mini Pods for the house, including one in the kitchen. I have them connected together so I can play music, classic jazz throughout the house. That sounds cool. There you go, Mike. That's what you can do. All right, let's scroll down a bit more. Okay. What about a bank of cabinets above the windows to take the floor to ceiling look, wall to wall as well? This could look good depending. Winston, I'm not a fan of that. I like nothing above the window. I don't like having a valance. I don't like any connection between the two. I just like to have the window there. But I have seen it and I've done it actually a bunch of different jobs of connecting it across, and in the right circumstance. In fact, I did it recently with a client where on one side of the window the cabinet was much smaller, and so it looked out of place without really connecting it. And so that's what we did, is tied it all together. So that's definitely a way to do it. But just know that generally those cabinets are not that accessible, and so that would be a place where you're spending budget money in a place that's not as usable. They're high up. You need to access them, via a step stool of some sort, which is fine, but not a go-to everyday type of place. But yeah, in the right circumstances, it can look well. But if there's lots of cabinets on both sides, then tying it together is not generally not my favorite thing to do because I just like the look of that. However, if you're talking about, yeah, so just floor to ceiling look. So if it's a cathedral ceiling, you wouldn't really worry about that. But yeah, so it can be good and not in all circumstances. Karen, hey, I'm struggling with utensil storage. I have a drawer space, but drawers are deep, so spatulas, tongs are just thrown on top of each other. Help. Okay, so your available drawers are deep drawers. Oh, there I go again. Um, what's a good way to do that? This is where having the drawer inside a drawer could work, and if that's something that you could incorporate, maybe that would help. But I know what you're saying. If you have a deep drawer and it just everything's thrown on top of each other, that can be challenging. And so it's either finding ways. What I found is, well, I don't store my spatulas in deep drawers; they're in shallow drawers. But having just separate utensil trays for that can be helpful. But if you can figure out a way to install another inserted drawer like they do at IKEA, that might be something that you want to consider, because you're just trying to create that shallow depth for those things. I would say though, just organizing them into specific like long bins is a good thing, but that doesn't solve the problem of throwing them on top of each other. Um, so that might not really work. Does anyone have something good there? I know you can get two-tiered cutlery trays, but they're not great for like spatulas and stuff because they're mainly for forks and knives, and I don't particularly like those because they can kind of get jammed up. But that same idea in a drawer with I don't think it's terribly difficult to have something like that installed. So that'd be one way to do it. But if someone has a better answer than that, please pipe up. Because that is kind of annoying, just throwing everything on top of each other and digging around for what you need. So other than just organizing each thing, but that's kind of limiting as well. So Phil, I'd make you a mod, man. You're more than welcome. Almost everyone here, I'd let be mods. That'd be great. Um, you wouldn't kick me out. No way. All right. As a follow-up to the outlet question, does Canada allow those pop-up extractors vents for island-mounted ranges? Yes, we actually do. So I've installed those, and so that's yeah. So we allow those, but just not the electrical pop-ups. So yeah, we do, and it is province by province. So each province in Canada has its own electrical code. Um, though they're all very similar, and all very similar in the United States as well. Like there's an international code that kind of all the municipal or all the province states kind of base their codes off of, but then they get kind of specific, and that's one of the specifics. But this is allowed in my province, I think in most actually. Ooh, I've heard that from 2023, it's not mandatory to have electrical receptacles on islands in the USA. That's interesting, Sanjeev. That changes a lot of things for people. I still think it's. I don't see why it wouldn't. I think it should be mandatory, um, and I think it's a really good idea to have an electrical outlet in your island, because then you don't have a cord if you're I mean, and if you're not using anything on your island that needs electricity, then that doesn't matter. But if you are and you have a cord coming across a walkway, that's why it's built into the building code because that's not that safe. Um, but interesting. And then Darlene saying that, yeah, she's in the USA and it's not mandatory, but probably useful. It is very useful. And yeah. Do you lean towards warmer or cooler white paint? Well, I don't lean towards either of those. I just design the spaces. So that what I do now for my online clients is I design. I'm not telling them whatever color white they want to go with, they go with. I'm designing the space, so I'm not doing any interior design work. Personally, I would prefer a cooler white paint, but I mean, I could barely tell the difference. Like white is white to me. Don't say anything to my wife about that because she laughs at me when I can't figure out what warm and cool tones are. I just can't figure it out. I'll like or floor. She's like, okay, Mark, is this warm, neutral, or cool? I'm like, it's warm. She's like, no, it's neutral. I'm like, what's the difference? She's like, you can just tell. And I just can't tell. All right. Every state has different regulations. Yes, Jackie's saying that, and yes, New York is now banning gas ranges in new builds starting in 2026. Interesting. Um, yeah, my recent video was said a little bit about that. Interesting to see where that will go. If you haven't watched it, it was a fun one. Go watch it. Let me know how was my experiment. Some of you didn't think it was that good. It wasn't meant to be, you know, in Science America journal, um, but it was fun to do. You can put utensils in cylinders. Fill for the win. That's what you can do, Karen. You can put them in cylinders, so they're vertical, easy to grab. So if you have the height for that, that is a really good one. Phil, that's a great interjection there. Here, I thought you're just all Fanta. Yeah, in containers. I mean, I wanted you guys to say that. I was thinking it, and I wanted this to come from you. So I'm really glad that you guys piped up on that. I really want you guys to say that. So thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking. And yeah, I think that is a great idea. All right. Have you ever worked with someone who has done an IKEA kitchen long distance? Nearest IKEA stores on the mainland, and I live on Vancouver Island. Yes, I have. A few actually. Well, I've done one for a client in the Caribbean, on a particular island in the Caribbean, um, and so they had to get everything flown in, and so quite long distance, and yeah, it it went fine. They got everything flown in. They made sure that I think it was Miami, uh, somewhere. I think it was Miami where the IKEA was, and uh, they made sure they had everything in stock, and then you know they get it all shipped. So not the most, it's not the quickest turnaround, but it's very doable. So if you're in Vancouver Island, the stores on the mainland, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of shipping companies that can handle that no problem. So just here's the thing: you have your item list done and prepared. You just contact the store. So if you're dealing with me, say we would design the kitchen, get the item list ready. Then they would have that project number, and then you just call them, make sure they have that all in stock, and then get that shipped. So it's very doable, and yes, I have done it. So I don't live anywhere near an IKEA, so okay, my utensils are almost cylindrical containers standing in the cabinet. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Phil. I had the idea, and Phil got there eventually. I just didn't say it. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, let me see if there's room. That's a great idea. Phil for the win. All right, we'll do a few more of these. I didn't get through half of my things, but that's fine. I was really hoping you guys were going to come through for me, and you really did. So I appreciate it. Um, I love all this chatter. Some live streams I have kind of more curated content, and others I just don't. And I really like this because it's kind of gets us just chatting and stuff. My favorite kitchen appliances are my Puretech Spark water system. Oh, with filtered sparkling, chilled, or ambient water on tap. Helen, and my Breville Oracle Touch coffee machine. What's ambient water? I want some of that. What's ambient? I've never even heard of that. When I come visit, I want some ambient water. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, Darlene likes my experiments. I enjoyed doing that. It was fun. When designing task lighting over an island, do you stick to the odd number rule for fixtures? Um, yes. Yes, I do. Um, yeah. If that's what the interior designer tells you to do, that's probably a good way to do it. Yeah, I mean, the odd number rule works for a reason, and because it centers, it gives us a centered point, and I think that's generally good. Usually, it's not always the rule, but that generally works. So I would say that's a good rule to go by if you want it to. If you want it to just look good, generally you just want this to look good. Probably the odd number rule is going to work. Tray, or I'm assuming it's tray. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Room temperature water is ambient water. Oh, okay. I don't really want it. I don't want ambient water anymore. I'd rather it be chilled. But thanks for clarifying that because I have never heard it said that way before. That's cool. I guess it's good to have ambient water though on tap. All right, I have to run. I got to run too. But yeah, thank you, Darlene. Thank you to everyone who shows up. So I only got through 2 or 3. No, I got through 4 of my slides, and then you know what? I've got 6 more to go. So hang on tight. No, I'm just kidding. I do have to run. Thank you so much for being on here. Oh, perfect. Thank you. I when I mispronounce people's names, or at least when I think I do, I don't like that at all. Um, you guys are great. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for everyone who just had so many questions. This was excellent. I really do appreciate it. And we'll do this again next week. Maybe we'll just continue the conversation. I'll go through the rest of maybe my questions that I have because they are generally important to look through some of these basic general questions as jumping off points to plan out a kitchen renovation. And then you guys just come through with all the really good questions, and that's really great. So I really do appreciate it. Thanks so much. This week's video, I'm chatting about, is it necessary to have a kitchen, an interior designer involved in the kitchen design process? Is it? Well, we're going to chat about that on Saturday, and we'll be back here again on Wednesday night to chat about kitchen-related things. And one of these days, I'm going to have someone join me. I know I have a few people on the docket. I just have to get my act together and get things set up. So hopefully, we'll see that. And if any of you, especially those of you who are in the industry of kitchen design or interior designer, please reach out via email to come on the show. I would love to chat with you live on a live stream and just do what we do here. Just not with me, just me and maybe you and all the people in the chat. We can have a really great conversation, I'm sure. So very cool, great chat. Thank you so much. Blessings to all of you. Love you all, and we will see you next Wednesday or on a replay. And if that's you and you've watched this far on a replay, subscribe.